Hello everyone and welcome to our Realna podcast. In this podcast we're gonna talk about two TED Talks which discuss the idea of evolution versus religion and also talk about atheism versus religion. The first TED Talk is Dennet responding to Pastor Rick Warren, and the second one is Richard Dawkins, militant atheism. We're gonna do a comparison between the two of them and then draw in a small conclusion in the end. We're going to start with the first TED Talk, the TED Talk of Mr. Dennet. Here are some key quotes from this TED Talk. Religion are a natural phenomenon just as natural as gods. In fact, in his TED Talk, Mr. Dennet discusses the eternal fight between evolution and religion. And he goes as far as comparing religion to the natural selection phenomenon, which is also known as the Darwin's theory. Then Mr. Dennet passes on to discuss one of his ideas, education on world religion for all our children in public and private schools and homeschooling. In this part of the talk, Mr. Dennet is pointing at the deliberate ignorance brought by religion to his children towards other religions, and he criticizes this idea, saying that every person in the world has the right to know facts about other religion and have the right of the freedom to choose whatever religion, whatever creed he wants to believe in. So then Mr. Dennet goes on to discuss the book written by Pastor Rick Warren, The Driven Purpose Life, and he discusses one key idea in this: we don't need to believe in God to be good or to have a meaning in life. Mr. Dennet here refuses the idea that being good and having a meaning in life is directly related to believing in God. He then goes on to quote some other part of the book, stating that some of them, such as Noah's flood, discourage people from scientific understanding. And then here we're gonna leave you with the conclusion from Mr. Dennet himself. You know many wonderful, committed, engaged atheists, agnostics who are being very good with God, and you also know very religious people who hide behind their sanctity instead of doing good work.
To me, that's a very problematic ship to get on for the future. I found this sign as I was driving to Maine recently in front of a church. Good without God becomes zero. Sort of cute, a very clever little meme. I don't believe it. And I think this idea, popular as it is, not in this guise, but in general, is itself one of the main problems that we face. If you are like me, you know many wonderful, committed, engaged atheists, agnostics who are being very good without God. And you also know many religious people who hide behind their sanctity instead of doing good works. So I wish we could drop this meme. I wish this meme would go extinct. Thanks very much for your attention.
Now we'll pass on to the second TED Talk, Richard Dawkins, militant atheist. In fact, in this TED Talk, Mr. Dawkins discusses the contrast between religion's views and Darwinism, which is a little bit similar to the first TED Talk that we've discussed here. So here are some key quotes from it. I think they're right about one thing. I think they're right that evolution is fundamentally hostile to religion. I believe that true understanding of Darwinism is deeply corrosive to religious faith. Living creatures are too complex to have come about by chance. They must have had a design. Actually, this is the idea that Mr. Dawkins refutes himself. In fact, creationists state that everything on this earth is too complex, too wonderful to exist by chance, that things have been created and work in an organized way that has been plotted by God. This exact idea is sarcastically refuted by Mr. Dawkins, who thinks that you cannot explain the complexity of things by suggesting the existence of an entity that is even more complex. Thus, coming back to Darwin's theory of natural evolution, which he considers stunningly elegant, as he said. The God theory is not just a bad theory. It turns out to be in principle incapable of doing what it is required to do. It teaches people to be satisfied with trivial, supernatural non-explanations and blind them to the wonderful real explanations that we have within our grasps. Okay, here he's talking about religion and how religion gives supernatural explanations to people instead of giving scientific facts and real explanations, as he said. He feeds his point of view with the example of the extinction of dinosaurs, putting a scientifically well-documented article versus non-explained statement made by scientists to prove how ridiculous it would be to take things for granted and blindly believe in some things. So we're gonna pass on to some other quotes. We need a consciousness-raising coming out campaign for American atheists. So this is where Mr. Dawkins invites every atheist to become a militant atheist, and he stresses more than once on the financial need for funds to engage such a project by saying we will need more money. So with this, I'm going to leave you with a conclusion said by Mr. Dawkins himself.
About 10% of you to be religious. Many of you probably subscribe to our polite cultural belief that we should respect religion. But I also suspect that a fair number of those secretly despise religion as much as I do. If you're one of them, and of course many of you may not be, but if you are one of them, I'm asking you to stop being polite, come out and say so. And if you happen to be rich, give some thought to ways in which you might make a difference. The religious lobby in this country is massively financed by foundations, say nothing of all the tax benefits, by foundations such as the Templeton Foundation and the Discovery Institute. We need an anti-Templeton to step forward. If my books sold as well as Stephen Hawking's books, instead of only as well as Richard Dawkins' books, I'd do it myself. People are always going on about how did September the 11th change you? Well, here's how it changed me. Let's all stop being so damned respectful. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now we're going to pass on to a small comparison between the two talks. We're going to just point at some of what both of them had said, like talking about the evolution theory, the natural evolution theory of Darwin, which both of them support. They both also talked about their point of view towards religion, how religion perceives atheists. And here we want to point at the difference in the final conclusions between the two. So for the first one, Mr. Dennet just wants other people, and mainly religious people, to acknowledge atheists as their equal, as possibly good people. As for Mr. Dawkins, he just calls on to form a lobby that would face religion, and he calls on to stop being respectful and to fight religion the way religion fights atheists. Thank you for your time, and We hope you enjoyed our podcast, and you can give us your feedback in the comment area. Thank you.